Alan was pouring coffee when he realized he had no memory of walking into the kitchen. The kettle had clicked off at some point. His phone was already in his hand. He scrolled without reading, the way someone breathes without noticing. On the counter, the toast had gone cold. He ate it, standing up, tasting nothing, already rehearsing an argument he'd had with his manager 3 days ago. The one he kept winning silently, in his head, long after everyone involved had forgotten it. The commute blurred. He walked past a tree that had bloomed overnight and didn't see it. At work, he answered emails while thinking about lunch. At lunch, he thought about the evening. In the evening, he thought about the weekend. By the time the weekend came, he was already tired of it. Somewhere between the train platform and his front door, a woman laughed loudly on a phone call, and Alan flinched. Not at the sound, but at the realization that he hadn't heard a single real thing all day. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed with his shoes still on and noticed he was waiting. For what, he couldn't say. A week later, his landlord left a cardboard box of forgotten things outside his door. Items the previous tenant had abandoned. Alan almost threw it out. But near the bottom, under a tangle of phone chargers, was a thin paperback with a creased spine. He brought it inside, made tea, and opened it only because the Wi-Fi was slow. The first thing he noticed was the breath. His own. He hadn't felt it in years. He put the book down, placed a hand on his chest, and sat very still on the floor of his kitchen, listening to the hum of the fridge as if it were music. The next morning he tried an experiment. Brushing his teeth, he only brushed his teeth. No podcast, no scrolling, just the sound of the bristles, the taste of mint, the cool tile under his bare feet. It lasted maybe 40 seconds before his mind wandered back to the manager, the argument, the imagined comeback. But he caught it. That was new. Catching it. He began noticing how much of his day belonged to something that wasn't happening. A meeting he dreaded on Thursday occupied Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. A conversation from last year replayed itself while he chopped onions. He saw for the first time that he had been living everywhere except where his body actually was. His body was always in a kitchen, a train, a chair. His mind was always in a courtroom. One evening, walking home, a small rain started. The old Alan would have hurried. This Alan slowed down. He felt the water touch the back of his neck and travel down under his collar. It was cold. It was only cold. He almost laughed at how simple that was. He noticed his mother on a video call. Really noticed her. The small line between her eyebrows when she was worried about him. He'd never seen it before, though she'd probably worn it for years. He didn't say anything about it. He just listened longer than usual and let the silences sit, and she told him something she had never told him, about her own father, and afterward she looked surprised at herself. At work, the manager said something dismissive in a meeting. Alan felt the familiar heat rise, the rehearsed speech forming behind his teeth, but he watched it rise instead of riding it. He noticed his jaw tighten. He noticed his hand grip the pen. He said nothing. The meeting ended. The speech dissolved. Nothing had happened, and nothing needed to. He stopped finishing sentences in his head before people were done speaking. He stopped planning the shower while he was still in bed. He started drinking water and actually tasting that it was water. He is not enlightened. He still checks his phone too much. He still loses whole afternoons to noise. The argument with the manager still visits him, uninvited, at red lights. But on Sunday morning he made coffee, and he remembered making it. He sat by the window with the cup in both hands. Steam rose. A pigeon landed on the railing outside and tilted its head at him. Alan tilted his head back. Neither of them moved for a long moment. He used to think his life would begin once a few more things fell into place. Sitting there with the coffee warming his palms and the pigeon blinking slowly at him, it occurred to Alan that his life had been happening the whole time and he had simply been somewhere else.